The story is about a 4-year-old boy named Kotaro. One day, he moved into the Shimizu apartment complex. Kotaro went to the store and bought some boxes of tissues to give to his neighbors. While buying tissues, he saw a very beautiful sword. So Kotaro got one for himself too. This blonde-haired guy is Kurino. He is being ignored by his girlfriend. It's because of his dating habits. He ended up falling asleep and missed their date. To make things worse, he even got his girlfriend's name wrong. As you can guess, it didn't end well. After she left, Kotaro came over to check on Kurino. He brought a gift to introduce himself. It turns out Kotaro rented room 203. Kurino was quite curious about where the boy's parents were. Kotaro said he rented the room next door by himself. He hoped Kurino would look after him. When Kurino entered his own room, he was surprised that it looked like a garbage dump. He hadn't washed his dishes for an entire week. Kurino hadn't bathed for a whole month. Kurino is a manga artist, so his work isn't going too well. Suddenly, Kotaro came over to his place again. It turned out he couldn't find the bathtub anywhere. According to Kurino, there's no bathtub in this building. However, some rooms do have a shower. But Kotaro's room probably doesn't have one. People here usually go to the public bathhouse. After Kurino showed Kotaro the way, Kotaro packed his things and went to the bathhouse to take a bath. Meanwhile, Kurino turned on the news. Suddenly, Kurino saw a report about a missing girl. Recently, there have been many child kidnapping cases. Kurino suddenly remembered. Kotaro had gone to the bathhouse alone. So he followed him and bathed with Kotaro. Because Kurino was afraid someone might kidnap him, he thought of himself as a hero. So Kurino bathed with him. He even washed Kotaro's hair. That made Kotaro really happy. Because it had been a long time since anyone washed his hair. Kotaro felt very excited, as it was his first time experiencing a bathtub bath. But Kurino told him, if he goes to the bathhouse every day, he'll go broke without realizing it. But Kotaro didn't worry at all, because he believed he was born rich. When he came to rent the room, the landlord said as long as he had money, he could rent it. So the landlord didn't care whether it was an adult or a child. Kurino asked about Kotaro's parents. Kotaro said he used to have parents, but now they are no longer in this world. Kurino also didn't have parents. His family died in an accident when he was a child. The next morning, Kotaro went out alone again. So Kurino felt uneasy and decided to follow him. Suddenly, an orange-haired girl appeared. She introduced herself as Mitsuki. Mitsuki was also renting room 201. She was very happy to meet Kotaro. Mitsuki thanked him for the box of tissues Kotaro had given her. Turns out they were neighbors. But this was the first time Kurino met her. So he introduced himself as Kurino from room 202. Mitsuki said, "You two look so much alike. I actually thought you were father and son." Kurino figured she was just joking. But when they were shopping at the supermarket, everyone there said the two of them looked exactly like a father and son. So Kurino started to doubt himself. Could what they're saying be true? He began to wonder. Could Kotaro actually be my illegitimate child? After all, Kotaro was already 4 years old. 4 years ago, Kurino did date a girl. So he started asking Kotaro questions to gather information. He wondered why Kotaro came to live here, and why he rented the room right next to his. Then Kotaro said, "Everyone keeps mistaking you for my dad, because you keep following me around. But you and my dad look nothing alike." Hearing that made Kurino feel relieved. He was afraid he actually had a secret child somewhere. That night, Kotaro wanted to borrow Kurino's TV, because his own TV wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. So Kotaro asked to borrow Kurino's TV to watch Tono-saman. Suddenly, Kotaro brought up how everyone today thought he was Kurino's son, and he apologized to Kurino for that. But Kotaro also said, "I don't think you're my dad, because I just see you as my servant." On his way back to the apartment, Kurino ran into Mitsuki. She was currently unemployed, so when Kotaro said he rented a place here, she thought they were just joking. And the misunderstanding that they looked like father and son, Mitsuki thought it was funny. But Kurino felt rather confused, though he didn't know how Kotaro truly felt. It turns out Mitsuki works at a bar, and she just got her paycheck this month. Someone texted Mitsuki asking to borrow money. The next morning, Kotaro and Kurino found Mitsuki drunk. Seeing that, Kotaro quickly ran to the convenience store. Kurino thought, I can't let the boy go alone. So Kurino ran after Kotaro. When they returned, Kotaro brought Mitsuki a bottle of water. Kotaro told Mitsuki, "Please use this bottle wrapped in a towel I brought. It'll help you sober up quickly." He also noticed Mitsuki's eyes were swollen and red. So Kotaro told her to put the cold bottle over her eyes. It would help reduce the swelling. Kotaro assumed Mitsuki had been crying a lot. Mitsuki tried to lie, saying she was just drunk, not crying. Kotaro said he wouldn't be bothered if she cried. And even if she did, he wouldn't hate her. Kurino was surprised at how mature the boy was. Because Kotaro had seen many adults cry before, so he had some experience comforting others. Kotaro was cleaning the balcony. Suddenly, pigeons kept pooping on it. At that moment, one pigeon was about to poop on the balcony, and Kotaro shooed it away, while Kurino was discussing work with his editor. Because he represented the publishing side, the editor said Kurino's story was pretty good, but his drawings were terrible. Caused trouble for Kurino's manga. After the fall, Kotaro's knee got scraped. As a result, Kurino failed again in getting his manga published, so he put his work aside for a while. At the same time, Kurino stood up to get some coffee to wake himself up. Unexpectedly, when he stood up, his back made a cracking sound. At that moment, Kotaro came over to Kurino's place. He said that he had treated the wound himself at home. Kotaro said, "I disinfected and bandaged my knee myself," knowing that treating the wound himself would be very painful. Kotaro still endured the pain and managed to get through it. Kurino thought, maybe he came here just to show off his achievement. But actually, Kotaro wanted to show Kurino that, if he tries his best, everything will work out just fine. So Kurino asked Kotaro to apply a pain relief patch to his back. To repay Kotaro, Kurino drew Tona's-saman on the bandage for Kotaro's wound. That made Kotaro very happy. It was the first time Kurino had seen him smile so joyfully. Kotaro was quite curious about the picture on the left. Kurino said it was Kotaro's face. He didn't think any artist could draw as well as this boy. At that moment, a man wearing glasses who looked like a gangster came looking for someone. His face looked fierce, but when he saw Kotaro, he immediately switched to a super cute mode. He quickly grabbed Kotaro and rubbed their cheeks together. That made Kotaro quite uncomfortable. He just pointed at the man and warned him. So the man with glasses dragged Kotaro back to his room to play. He introduced himself as Isamu from room 102. Then he gave Kotaro a Tonosaman-shaped stuffed toy. Kotaro quickly accepted it, but he told the man not to come near him, because every time the man met Kotaro, he would hug him and pat his head. Then the man said, actually, Isamu intended to give this gift to his son, but it seemed the boy didn't like him. Someone even told Isamu, the boy doesn't want to see you. So Isamu couldn't give him the gift. Then Kotaro returned the gift to Isamu. He said, I don't want to be a replacement. And Kotaro didn't like anything fake. So Isamu apologized to Kotaro for that. When he got back to his room, Kotaro asked Kurino, "Are these drawings fake?" Kurino quickly asked back, "Then was your smile earlier also fake?" Kotaro ran off, and said that smile wasn't fake. That night, Kurino let Kotaro borrow his TV to watch Tonosaman. Kotaro watched and repeated every line Tonosaman said, because he was a loyal fan of the Tonosaman superhero series. That night, Kurino also tried to learn more about the Tonosaman show, knowing this superhero show is not very popular. But somehow Kotaro is deeply obsessed with it. Even the commanding way Kotaro talks is something he learned from the Tonosaman show. The next day, the two of them went to the public bath together. Kotaro sang the Tonosaman theme song while bathing, because Tonosaman is very special to him. While they were talking, they noticed a little boy crying. Kotaro walked over to the boy to try and comfort him. He gently advised, even if you feel unwilling or upset, there's always someone by your side, so there's nothing to be sad about. After hearing Kotaro's encouraging words, the little boy stopped crying. Kotaro then thought maybe the boy didn't need the TV's help at midnight anymore. So he turned to Kurino and said, from now on, I won't watch TV in the middle of the night anymore. Because he now considers himself a model grown up. But when they returned home, Kotaro still had his face glued to the screen watching Tonosaman, especially since tomorrow will be the final episode of Tonosaman. Today, For some unknown reason, Isamu came to look for Kurino. At that time, Kotaro was sitting out on the street. He put up a sign that said, "1 performance, 10 yen. Turns out Kotaro was dancing and acting out Tenosumen for people to watch. After they watched, he would give them 10 yen as a gift. That surprised everyone a lot, because they thought they would be the ones making money for him. They didn't expect Kotaro to perform for them, and even give them money afterward. At this moment, Isamu came looking for Kurino because the final episode of Tenosumen was about to air. He thought Kotaro would be very sad, because Isamu knew how much he loved that show. That evening, the two of them went to Kotaro's place to watch the final episode of Tenosumen with him. While all three were enjoying the show, they even started copying Tenosumen just like Kotaro. After the episode ended, Kurino asked Kotaro, because now that Tenosumen had ended, he wondered whether Kotaro would be able to sleep. But from now on, Kotaro wouldn't need the help of the TV anymore. Kotaro said he would be fine, because he's already a grown-up. The next day, Kotaro and Kurino went to the public bath again. Kurino thought it wasn't necessary to go every single day, because going that often would be very expensive. But Kotaro was different. He believed bathing wasn't just for getting clean, but also helped wash away the troubles of the day. Unexpectedly, the bathhouse was closed that day. The next day, Kurino didn't know why, but Kotaro seemed to be keeping his distance from him. But Kurino didn't understand why Kotaro was acting so strangely. He kept his distance no matter what he was doing. Unexpectedly, even when giving money, Kotaro had to use a sword to hand it over. Kurino thought, could he have caught COVID? This made him very confused. It turned out it was because Kotaro hadn't bathed yet, so he didn't want anyone to come near him. Mistuki thought, maybe Kotaro hadn't bathed for many days before. That's why he hates not bathing so much. Maybe he doesn't want to be disliked because of that. When she got home, Mistuki went to find Kotaro, and he was pouring hot water into the sink to bathe. Kotaro said, "This way, I'll be clean and Kurino won't hate me anymore." Kurino was outside and overheard everything. He wouldn't abandon Kotaro just because he missed 1 or 2 days of bathing. Kurino thought that from now on, he would have to go to the bathhouse with Kotaro every day. That night, when Mistuki returned from work, she found Kotaro on the balcony. It was late at night, so why was he out here, and he was even carrying a pillow, standing in front of someone's house? Seeing this, Mistuki asked if something was wrong, but Kotaro said there was nothing. The next night when Mistuki came home from work, Kotaro's room was still lit. The next day, Kotaro's eyes were dark like a panda's. That day, Mistuki had the day off, so she invited him to take a bath together. Then Kotaro and Mitsuki went to eat. In the evening, the two of them slept together. Kotaro even told Mitsuki to rest her head on his arm. The next morning, Kurino noticed Kotaro's eyes were even more swollen. Mitsuki sighed as well, because she had tried to stay by Kotaro's side, to keep him from staying up all night like that again. Unexpectedly, it backfired on him. It turned out Kotaro had insomnia because of nightmares, while last night he also couldn't sleep, for a different reason. Unexpectedly, the first time letting a girl rest her head on his arm was really hard, but also very warm. Kurino felt really jealous of him after hearing that, and took the chance to tease him, saying, "Mitsuki smells really nice when she sleeps. When he remembers that scent, he will definitely have a sweet dream." The next morning Kotaro came back with a fresher face. It turned out he had a wonderful dream last night. In his dream, he saw the young lady Mitsuki looking very attractive. Kids develop so fast now. Unexpectedly, even at 4 years old, they can have such dreams. Today was Kotaro's first day at school. While all the other kids were led by their parents, Kotaro went alone. In the morning, Kurino saw the kid go out alone, and he also planned to follow him, but he didn't let him and ran away from Kurino. Mitsuki also didn't know where Kotaro had gone since morning. Isamu was also going around looking for Kotaro, but couldn't find him anywhere. Kurino saw a mother leading a kid to school, while Kotaro was also wearing a similar hat. So after a while, the whole group ran to his school. Why didn't Kotaro tell them? Kurino ran straight over and sat next to Kotaro. He irritably said that kids don't need to hold back so much. Mitsuki and Isamu also came here, thinking Kotaro must have been very happy. Now the whole class was having lunch, and everyone brought a lunchbox cooked by their mother. and each lunchbox was decorated very nicely. Because he didn't have a mother, Kotaro often went to the convenience store to make himself a nice lunchbox. The lunchbox even had a picture of Tono-sama. Every Wednesday, Kotaro had to make his own lunchbox. Now he was staring at the ball delivery man, because Kotaro thought he will fly away because he's holding too many balls. So he went to ask for some balls, so that the man wouldn't fly away anymore. So he went to ask for some balloons, to keep the man from being blown away. Each of them only received one balloon. After he received the red balloon, Kotaro disguised himself as someone else to get another balloon. At this time, the uncle also knew Kotaro was in disguise, but he still gave him another balloon. When Kotaro returned home, he was holding 4 balloons. He asked Kurino to draw faces on the balloons: a boy, a girl, a man, and a woman. The next day while walking on the street, the uncle who gave the balloons saw Kotaro sitting and playing alone. He saw the 4 balloons he had given Kotaro were all with him, which surprised him. On those balloons were written, "Little sister, ... little brother, ... dad, and mom." Seeing Kotaro like that, he hoped the balloons would last long. The next day after school, Kurino came to pick Kotaro up. On the way home, the editor called. Kurino told Kotaro that he would go to the publishing house. Nen advised him to go home first, but Kotaro refused to go home, and went along with Kurino. At that time, the editor looked through Kurino's manuscript. He felt Kurino's drawings were not very good yet, but Kotaro kept arguing with the editor, because he felt the picture is already very beautiful. But he kept making the uncle draw repeatedly. The editor tried drawing to see if it was better than Kurino's, and even dared to criticize Kurino. Seeing that, Kurino had to quickly cover Kotaro's mouth. Otherwise, he would lose his job. So, while Kurino went to the restroom, Kotaro said, "Please don't bully Kurino anymore." The editor reacted, "It's true that you couldn't control yourself, so you strongly opposed Kurino. However, you really have high expectations for him, because his storytelling style is very good. It's just that he is still weak in other areas." Now the editor sees Kotaro as like a young guardian of Kurino after talking with the editor. Kotaro thought, he is a good person. Today, Isamu came just when Kotaro wanted to go shopping, so he invited the uncle to come along. Kotaro wanted to buy nice clothes because he wanted to be loved by others more. At this time, they both went to the store to choose clothes. While Kotaro was changing clothes, suddenly, a security guard approached him, because he suspected Isamu was a suspicious person. Maybe because his appearance looked very much like a Yakuza gang member. Just then, Kotaro appeared. He asked the security guard and everyone around, "Do you think I look stylish?" Because Kotaro was very afraid of being disliked by others. He tried to do everything to be loved by everyone. Meanwhile, the people around whispered about Isamu, because of his clothes and appearance, which made people feel unfriendly toward Isamu. At this moment, Isamu said, "Kotaro, are you really that afraid of being disliked? There may be people who are disliked, even though they are very stylish. So being stylish isn't everything. To me, you're not stylish at all, but I still love you very much." Then, another man came, and asked about the relationship between the two. Kotaro stood up and answered, "Uncle Isamu is my neighbor, and a friend of mine." That night, Kotaro went to a bar. He called a waitress, who was Mitsuki. When Mitsuki saw Kotaro, she was startled and called Kurino. He then pulled Kotaro home. Kurino said to Kotaro, "Kids going to bars to hire girls now?" But before leaving, Kotaro had to pay the entrance fee, as well as for the things he was served. When he just got home, he went back to the bar, so he called Mitsuki to serve him again. It turned out Kotaro did that because he wanted to be near Mitsuki, since they had eaten snacks together the day before. During that time, Mitsuki received a call, revealing that her house rental contract had ended. Because Mitsuki had been there for a while, it was time for her to move out. However, now that Kotaro was there, she decided to renew the lease. But Kotaro only heard the first half of the conversation. Then he walked away. It turned out Kotaro thought Mitsuki was going to move away. So he asked Kurino, "What should I do to spend more time with Mitsuki?" Kurino said, "If it were me, I would go to her nightclub. Then, I would choose to hire time to talk with Mitsuki." Hearing Kotaro's story made her very happy. At that moment, Kurino also arrived. Mitsuki invited both of them to sit down. Finally, she said, "Today, I will treat both of you to a meal." A few days later, Mitsuki and Kotaro went on a picnic together. For some reason, Kurino secretly followed them, but when he saw Kotaro was very cute. Both of them wanted to take a photo. However, Kotaro deliberately moved, causing them to fail to take a picture. In the end, the picnic ended without any photos. At that moment, they were quite curious why Kotaro didn't want to take pictures. The next day, on his way to school, Kurino gave him a drawing. Since they couldn't take photos, he had drawn one as a gift for him. It made Kotaro very happy. But he didn't forget to say to Kurino, "You drew very badly." Now he also asked Kurino to color the drawing. A new week, a new story with Kotaro. A girl named Kobayashi, this time was assigned by her superior to deliver money to a person at a fixed address every week. She was quite surprised to learn that she was a lawyer. But has to deliver money? When she arrived, she found out the recipient was a boy named Kotaro. He invited her into the house to have some tea. But before getting to the main task, Kotaro suddenly performed a song for Kobayashi, while he had also prepared a drum and a rattle. So the two of them had a joyful musical performance. After that, Kobayashi handed the money to Kotaro. He also gave Kobayashi a small gift in return. Kotaro then asked, "Where does this money come from?" Before coming, Kobayashi's superior had instructed her carefully. This boy is very eager to receive the money. So remember to play with him. If Kotaro asks where the money comes from, say it is a donation from a kind person. In fact, it was the life insurance money left by Kotaro's mother. Kobayashi followed her superior's words and told Kotaro, "This is a donation from a kind person." Suddenly, Kotaro smiled softly, because he already knew the answer. People who came before her said the same thing, but he never knew who that kind person was, and that was why Kotaro always treated visitors very kindly, hoping his gratitude could reach them. At that moment, Kobayashi left with a sad expression. Her superior was waiting outside in the car. Kobayashi felt touched, because the gift Kotaro gave her was a ryokan cake, and a weekly diary of Kotaro. Then her superior said, "Every week, the boy gives me a notebook, but I don't know what he writes or why he gives it to us." Quickly, Kobayashi clenched her fist and declared, "I will definitely complete this mission." Another day, Kotaro went to visit his classmate named Kakeru, whose caretaker is a maid named Yoshida. Because Kakeru's parents both work, so Kakeru has to live alone at home. At this time, Kotaro was very interested in Kakeru's Tonosum and toys. A few days later, Kotaro invited Kakeru to go shrimp fishing at a pond, because they were going to fish for shrimp here. He wanted Kakeru to catch one by himself, because Kakeru can't always rely on others. Finally, thanks to his effort, Kakeru managed to catch one. At that moment, Kotaro also suggested they would eat the shrimp. When they returned, Kotaro started cleaning the shrimp to cook. While Kakeru hesitated, "I'll ask my mom or Yoshida to buy something to eat." But Kotaro said, "We kids are fragile creatures. When there's no money or parents around, how will you survive?" So Kakeru has to learn to protect himself. So the two of them cooked the shrimp together. Kakeru looked at Kotaro and said, "You don't have anyone at home at all. If you feel lonely, just tell me. I will go shrimp fishing with you." Kotaro was very happy to hear that. Today, when Kurino came to pick up Kotaro, suddenly he saw Kotaro had a nosebleed, because Kotaro got hit in the face by a ball during dodgeball at class. So Kurino decided to take him to the park to teach Kotaro how to catch the ball. But no matter how hard he tried, Kotaro still couldn't catch any ball. The next day at school, Kotaro got hit in the face again, and he couldn't catch any ball at all, so Kurino had to guide him again. He also said, "If you can't catch it yourself, then run away." Suddenly remembering what his teacher said, Kurino also told Kotaro, "Imagine the ball is like words. If your friends throw the ball to you, but you dodge it, isn't that ignoring what they're saying?" This made Kotaro think, it's really hurtful if someone talks to you and you ignore them. Kurino also felt his words were heavy, but he couldn't leave Kotaro like that. That gave Kotaro motivation. The next day, he started learning how to throw the ball, making Kotaro better at playing ball too. Ouch. Don't think bad things. Guys, today, Kotaro was playing with a cat, but he didn't know when the cat's birthday was. Suddenly, he realized this month was Kotaro's birthday. So Isamu and Mitsuki got excited and decided to throw a birthday party for him. That made him very happy. Kotaro practiced breathing all day, because he wanted to blow out all the candles in one breath. When his birthday came, the three of them bought a very big cake. Suddenly, Kotaro grabbed the cake and ran away, leaving only a note. "Thank you very much. I'm borrowing the cake for a little while." It turned out he ran to the park to celebrate a birthday for the cats there. Since he didn't know their birthdays, he used his own birthday as theirs. This made the cats very happy and they surrounded Kotaro. One day, a classmate named Takuya invited Kotaro to run away from home. Takuya was frustrated because his mom nagged him every day about washing his hands and waking up early. He told Kotaro, "I will become a bad kid so my parents will be scared." So Takuya took Kotaro out to play. The first thing to do was stockpile food. But when they wanted to buy snacks, they had no money, so Kotaro had to pay. At that time, they went to the park and sat until evening. Takuya felt Kotaro was very lucky, because Kotaro stayed out until evening without anyone stopping him. It made Takuya very jealous of Kotaro. At that moment, Takuya said he would sleep over at Kotaro's house. When he arrived, Takuya discovered Kotaro lived alone. So Takuya asked, "Where are your parents?" Kotaro replied, "My parents went to ninja training. So there's no one here waiting or worrying about me." This made Takuya speechless. He didn't expect Kotaro to have no one caring for him. And Takuya apologized before running home. Meanwhile, Kotaro stood silently, feeling sad, because no one cared when he came home late. Just then, Kurino appeared. "Where have you been so late? I've gone to the bathhouse 3 times and didn't find you." Now Kotaro suddenly realized that Kurino was worried about him. The next week, Kobayashi came to Kotaro's house again, and the two of them happily played, singing and dancing together. When leaving, she felt very uncomfortable because she had to lie to Kotaro. The following week, she came to deliver money again, and the two of them sang together again. At this time, a delivery person brought a package for Kurino. But Kurino was not home, so he asked Kotaro to hold it for him. So Kotaro accepted to receive it on behalf of someone. Unexpectedly, he even opened it. It turned out that what Kurino put there was beer. So he invited Kobayashi to drink the beer. As a result, she got drunk and passed out. And Kobayashi even took off her clothes. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Kotaro asked again, "Where did that money come from?" Meanwhile, Kobayashi sighed sadly, but still repeated the same words. It was donated by a kind person. Finally, she fell asleep. Today was Kotaro's parent-teacher meeting day. So Kurino came to his school. He was looked at with suspicious eyes by everyone. Because of his appearance, they whispered. Kotaro's guardian was seen with a Yakuza guy, and a hostess at the entrance ceremony. Making people think, this family is really complicated. A few days later, there was another meeting, so the teacher said, "Soon, the school will hold a summer festival." The teacher announced that the whole class would participate in running booths and organizing the event together. Since there were still not enough helpers, the teacher intended to ask some parents for support the day before and on the day of the festival. However, all the other parents looked away and ignored the teacher's request. Meanwhile, Kurino was the only one who raised his hand to volunteer to help. He said he would take a day off work to handle this matter. On the day of the festival, Kurino called Uncle Isamu and Mitsuki to help with sales. And even the editor uncle came too. Unexpectedly, Kurino's manuscript manager also came to help. The teacher thanked Kurino for his spirit of volunteering. When Kurino volunteered, the teacher was really surprised. He also felt a little regretful about his decision. But when he saw Kotaro happy, he felt happy too, because the teacher didn't know Kotaro's situation clearly. But she thought that if Kurino were Kotaro's father, it would be great. Today, Kotaro went to the store with Kurino to buy tissues. Kurino didn't understand why he chose to buy such an expensive box of tissues. Because Kotaro cared a lot about the quality of tissues. He said, "Expensive tissues are soft, smooth, can keep moisture, and are even sweeter than cheap tissues." Kurino didn't expect Kotaro to research tissues so thoroughly. At home, Karino watched TV and saw an interview. The guy in the interview said that when he was young, there was a time when his parents didn't come home because they had no money. So no one took care of him, and there was nothing to eat. Because of that, he ate tissues, so he said that tissues taste quite sweet. A few days later, when the two went to buy tissues again, Karino chose a cheap brand of tissues for Kotaro. He said, quote, "You don't need to eat tissues anymore, so there's no need to choose the sweet kind." On the way back, Kotaro cooked himself a very lavish meal. At this time, there were many dishes on the table. Before eating any bite, Kotaro talked to each dish. Just then, Karino arrived. He gave Kotaro the neighborhood newsletter. When Karino saw the lavish meal, he was quite surprised. After a while, Mitsuki also came. She showed that she really liked Kotaro's food. She said, quote, "I wish one day I could eat something cooked by Kotaro." Kotaro didn't hesitate and promised everyone that on a beautiful day, he would cook for all of them. A few days later, Kotaro invited all three to enjoy a meal. It surprised all three when they saw there was only one dish. So they wondered, quote, "Why does he have so many dishes when he eats alone?" But then everyone ignored it and decided to try eating. And they admitted that Kotaro's food was very delicious. So they all happily ate together. Kotaro silently thought, "Today I don't need to cook many dishes for company at dinner anymore, because everyone is here." The next night, when he had to eat alone, Kotaro cooked many dishes again to have company. Today, the teacher was very tired because she had a lot of work. But when she got to class, she still tried to smile and do her best to teach the kids. Soon, at the parent-teacher meeting, there would be a cultural performance. The teacher would assign roles to everyone. However, she had never seen Kotaro smile. Suddenly, Kotaro volunteered to play the role of the smiling son. Kotaro said he was very good at acting smiles. So Kotaro gave a smile to prove his acting ability. On the day of the parent-teacher meeting, Kotaro performed very well. After that, the teacher praised Kotaro's smile as wonderful. Because of that, she wanted to see that smile even during normal times. Kotaro said, quote, "You're just like me, so it would be great if she could smile naturally. Because it's hard if the teacher has to force a smile when tired." The teacher didn't expect the kid to realize that. Finally, she gave the most natural smile. Kotaro thought her smile now was wonderful. The next day, a young man was climbing up a mountain. He passed by the apartment complex and asked for directions to the mountain. This young man came up here to watch the meteor shower. But when he climbed the mountain, Kotaro was already sitting there. Unexpectedly, as soon as they met, the two of them became close. So they danced the meteor shower dance together. It turned out his name was Ryoubo, and they already knew each other from before. Ryoubo also said, "It's been a long time since the facility, hasn't it, Kotaro?" Now he was already 18 years old, and Ryoubo had left the facility. Currently, he was working as a carpenter. So Kotaro apologized for leaving without saying goodbye. But Ryoubo knew that Kotaro's father was also there at the time, and had come to cause trouble at the facility. So he didn't blame Kotaro. The two of them had promised to watch the meteor shower together. Now Kotaro remembered the past. It turned out they had been very close before. Ryoubo was someone who really loved and took pictures of stars. When Kotaro saw his photos, he was very interested. One day, Ryoubo took Kotaro to watch the stars. And he said there was a very beautiful shooting star. But it only appeared in the summer. So the two of them promised to watch the meteor shower together. Unexpectedly, Kotaro had taken Ryoubo's camera. So he apologized and returned the camera to him. Ryoubo also knew that Kotaro just wants to keep the beautiful memories at the facility. So he only took the memory card and gave the camera back to Kotaro. At this time, the meteor shower appeared. Unexpectedly, it was so beautiful, surprising both of them greatly. As they shared their stories with each other, we also learned that Kotaro's father's name is Tasuku. Today, Karino slipped in the hallway because of a cold. So he asked Kotaro to bring the manuscript to the editor. The editor was very surprised because Kotaro could come here by himself. Today was Sunday, yet unexpectedly, he was working on this day too. Kotaro thought maybe his children were very sad, because he was trying so hard to do so many things. Suddenly, the editor turned and asked, "Kotaro, do you want to visit the toy magazine to know someone is there too?" How could Kotaro refuse, immediately? He agreed. When they arrived, Kotaro was very excited, not only to see Tanosaman, but also a 2-meter-tall Tanosaman doll. This made Kotaro very happy. A few days later, the editor met Kurino, so the two of them talked about Kotaro. During their conversation, he realized an important thing. Compared to his children, Kotaro acts much more mature and grown up. Because of that, on one Sunday, he decided to take Kotaro out for some fun, hoping Kotaro could enjoy feeling like a kid a little more. On the way back, the editor asked, Kotaro, do you want to go on another field trip? On another day, Kotaro went grocery shopping with Kurino as usual. But somehow that day, Kotaro bought a lot of things, surprising the shopkeeper because of the boy's generosity. A few days later, Kotaro met that shopkeeper again. Suddenly, he noticed her belly had grown, which made him quite worried. So Kotaro thought she had eaten too much leftover food because she couldn't sell everything. So her belly had grown like that. Because of that, he tried to buy a lot to help her. This made the shopkeeper laugh. Then she explained, No, it's because I'm pregnant. When the time comes, I will give birth to a baby. Then she continued, Children are the fruits of love between a father and a mother. This baby is my treasure, and will make its parents happy. After that meeting, Kotaro went to the park and talked with the cat. He remembered the shopkeeper's words. A treasure is what makes parents happy. Kotaro silently thought, I have no memories of my parents ever loving each other. If I am a treasure, I wonder if I have made my parents happy at all. As every week, Kobayashi came to send money to Kotaro. This time, Kotaro gave him a yokon cake along with a diary. Suddenly, today the diary had an additional 8th page. On that page, Kotaro wrote, I will try my best to be a treasure. At the same time, a new man appeared, an uncle named Aota. He just rented room 103. Right below Kotaro's room, Aota brought Kotaro a gift of something he liked. Aota also hoped Kotaro would be friends with him, knowing that Aota liked living alone. But he was very afraid of loneliness. From the next day, Kotaro started taking baths together with Aota, so he no longer bathed with Kurino. The two seemed to get along very well and played happily. One day, Aota came to see Kurino. He wanted to ask more about Kotaro because he was curious about the boy's parents. However, Kurino answered firmly, if it's something she didn't want to talk about, it's better not to dig into it. That night, Aota called Kotaro's father. Perhaps the reason Aota came here was to find Kotaro for him. Today, Isamu came to look for Kurino. He was quite annoyed that Aota had taken Kotaro away from him. Also, Isamu found Aota very suspicious, while his face didn't look trustworthy at all. So the two of them went together to find Aota. Suddenly, Isamu handed him some money and told him to tell the truth. Unexpectedly, Aota came here to find Kotaro for his father. It turned out Kotaro moved here to avoid his father. Meanwhile, the father was also forbidden from contacting Kotaro. So Aota would report this to Kotaro's father, because it was his duty. At this moment, Isamu was very angry after hearing this. So he wanted to attack Aota immediately. Isamu thought, would a child like Kotaro be happy living all alone? At that moment, Kotaro also appeared to protect Aota. When Isamu and Kurino saw Kotaro, they left. Suddenly, Kotaro asked, will Uncle Aota tell my father that I am here? The next morning, Kotaro came to find Kurino and invited him to the nursery. It turned out Aota had already left the apartment early in the morning. Quickly, Kurino ran to inform Isamu. So Isamu, Mitsuki, and Kurino followed Kotaro closely. They also went along to protect him, because Aota had reported to Kotaro's father. So all three of them kept following him constantly. Suddenly, Kotaro got angry. Then Kurino came to his room to check on him. But Kotaro said, I don't need anyone to protect me. So Kurino said, if you don't want it, then you should say so. But let me ask, why do you want to live alone? And Kotaro answered, I live alone to become stronger. The three adults looked quite dejected because Kotaro was sulking. He wouldn't even look at them. At this moment, Aota appeared. Then Kotaro came as well. He said he would go to the park to play with Takuya. Aota also asked to come along. And Kotaro even invited the three adults too. It turned out Aota had not given Kotaro's real address to his father. but only gave some random apartment address. Before, Aoda had also gone through many things, so he understood Kotaro's feelings. Meanwhile, Kotaro had discovered that Aoda was a spy for his father. Kotaro realized this when Aoda set up games that his father had said he really liked. Suddenly, he bowed his head and begged Aoda, "Please don't tell my father. Wait until I am stronger." At that moment, Takuya suddenly cried out loudly. It turned out it was just because of an ant. So Kotaro told him, "Takuya, please be quiet. Doing that will make you look weak. If I hadn't been weak in the past, my father wouldn't have become a bad person. So if I become strong, I think I might be able to live with my father." Now everyone understood a little about Kotaro. At this moment, Aoda also said, "It turns out, Aoda's parents were the same. Because they abused him, which made Aoda useless and weak. When he was little, he also thought like Kotaro. Now when Aoda thinks back, if he had been stronger, maybe his father would have loved him and not abused him anymore." Suddenly, Kurino came and challenged Kotaro to a race home. The result was Kurino losing badly. It turned out Kurino wanted to become Kotaro's rival, because he believed strength was easier to achieve with a rival. Kurino also knew that wouldn't solve anything, but until the day he realized he was on the wrong path. He wanted Kotaro to be strong, both physically and mentally. This man in the purple shirt is Kanetsiro. He is scamming people. They pretend to be someone else's son's voice to steal money. While calling an elderly couple, he heard a child's voice. Kanetsiro told the child to relay a message to the elderly couple. But the child said, "Wait 5 more minutes, they will be home soon." And every 5 minutes, he would call again. It turned out that little kid was Kotaro. When Kanetsiro found out he was a 4-year-old kid who lived all alone, he was very surprised. He didn't expect there to be parents that bad in the world. Because he also has a son. Kanetsiro understood that feeling too. Meanwhile, Kotaro kept calling every 5 minutes. It was because Kanetsiro's voice sounded very much like Kotaro's father's gentle voice. So he kept calling Kanetsiro repeatedly. Kotaro wanted to ask him for one thing. He wanted Kanetsiro to say to him, "You did well. You're a good boy." So Kanetsiro softened his voice and said what Kotaro wanted to hear. After that, the elderly couple also came back. A month passed. At this time, Aoda's business trip was over, so he had to leave. Suddenly, Mitsuki shouted loudly. It turned out she lost her underwear. Mitsuki had left it in the basket intending to wash it later. But before she could sleep well, it was already gone. Since Aoda was a detective, he decided to investigate. After searching, they found it lying on Kurino's balcony. Aoda thought it was caused by a cat, which had jumped in through the open door, took the underwear, and then went to play on Kurino's balcony. Meanwhile, there were also traces of cat fur. So Aoda was certain about it. The next day, Kotaro came to find Aoda. He said he had lost a box, so he wanted Aoda to help investigate. After wandering around for a while, and investigating without finding anything, when he returned to the room, everyone was already there. It turned out Kotaro wanted to hold a surprise farewell party for Aoda. And the box he mentioned was the gift that Kotaro wanted to give Aoda. At first, Kotaro thought Aoda was friends with him just because of the mission. But when he discovered the truth, he realized that Aoda was a true friend. The gift Kotaro gave Aoda was a magnifying glass. No one expected he was such a sentimental kid. While at school, Kotaro met a girl, and she introduced herself as Kana. Today, she wanted to come over to Kotaro's house to play. Kana's mother also asked Kurino and Kotaro's opinions first. So Kurino took the girl to Kotaro's house to play. But it seemed like they weren't very close, as they played together without saying a word. So the two just kept staring at each other. The following days were the same. Kurino noticed the two kids didn't seem to have fun playing together. Yet every day Kana wanted to come over. Kana said, "I play with Kotaro because my mom told me to." When Kurino recalled the time at school, while the other parents whispered to each other, it turned out Kana's family had gone bankrupt financially and was unstable. That day, Kurino met Kana's mother. He hopes she will pay attention to Kotaro's feelings. She says to let Kana play with Kotaro, because she doesn't want the girl to play at the houses of families richer than hers. Right, Kana's mother did not expect Kurino to think that way. Then, she took Kana home. Kana said, When I play with Kotaro, I see my mom is more relaxed and cheerful. Right? Today in class, a friend had a fever. So the teacher immediately took that friend to the infirmary. During recess, Kotaro came to talk to him. Kotaro advised him to be strong, hoping he wouldn't get sick so easily again. The next day, it seemed Kotaro caught a cold. But when the teacher asked, he kept denying it. Kotaro said he was fine. The teacher had no choice but to call Kurino, because he always tries to appear strong like that. Kurino didn't know how to persuade him either. So the boy who came yesterday went back to the infirmary again. Kotaro also told him, "Why do you let yourself get sick so easily? Aren't you afraid others will think you're weak?" But actually, he really wants to play with his friends. He just waits until he's better to play, because he doesn't want to spread the cold to others. If that happens, he will be very sad. After hearing that, Kotaro said, "I'm sorry for calling you weak. I think you are a strong person." Then he went home with Kurino. Today, Ms. Kobayashi came to find Kotaro. It turned out she was preparing to buy a house. So she wanted Kotaro to go look at the house, because he is an expert at living alone. So the two of them went to Sanin apartment complex. When they arrived, she and Kotaro looked around the house together. It turned out that before going, her superior had warned her, because Sanin apartment complex was where Kotaro once lived with his parents. And Kotaro also knew that she had read his diary. So perhaps when coming here, Kotaro's painful memories returned. In the end, Kobayashi did not buy this house anymore. Now Kotaro is in the forest. He was looking for leaves to eat when he met 3 siblings, including one older brother and 2 younger siblings. Kotaro thought they had been abandoned by their parents, so they had no money, and also came here to find leaves to eat and stave off hunger. Meanwhile, Kotaro was looking for leaves to save money. At this time, the older brother asked Kotaro to watch the 2 younger siblings for a while, saying, "I'll go and come back." But after waiting a long time without him returning, the 3 of them went to look for him. They found the older brother sitting alone, eating chips. Meanwhile, he didn't want to worry about his 2 younger siblings anymore, because he felt very tired. It turned out their mother had left and never came back, only asking the older brother to try to take care of the younger siblings. Kotaro thought he should keep that promise. He told Kotaro that he was also someone who had been abandoned. But Kotaro tried to deny it. "We definitely haven't been abandoned." A few days later, when Kotaro returned here, he heard the news that the 3 siblings had been taken away by Child Protective Services. On her way home from work, Mitsuki met a man. Without knowing what had happened, she only noticed the next morning that her cheek was swollen. It turned out she had been beaten by her boyfriend. One day, Mitsuki broke up with him, but he did not accept it. Unexpectedly, he didn't love Mitsuki and only dated her because of money. Kurino advised Mitsuki to report him to the police. But if she didn't want to, Isamu would beat him up to get satisfaction. So Kotaro told her she should leave, saying, "Mitsuki, go somewhere he can't find you anymore." Everyone thought it wasn't necessary to go that far, but Kotaro insisted on it. Meanwhile, Mitsuki had promised to stay by Kotaro's side, but no matter what, he still wanted her to leave. A few days later, every 10 minutes, Kotaro rang Mitsuki's doorbell once, and Mitsuki caught him. "Do you want Mitsuki to leave so badly that you'll bother her all day like this?" "I don't want Mitsuki to report to the police. If she does, Mitsuki's boyfriend will become the villain, because he saw she still loved her boyfriend. Kotaro was once like that, so he made his father become the bad guy. That's why he doesn't want Mitsuki to go through that." The next day, Mitsuki really moved out. When they said goodbye, Kotaro wore a mask to hide his tears. Mitsuki said, "She didn't think what you did to your father was wrong. Mitsuki thinks it was because you wanted what was best for both you and your father. So she reported your boyfriend to the police. He won't be caught, so I don't know when he will come here again. So she has to go too." Mitsuki also told him, "I'm sorry, Kotaro, for not keeping the promise to always be by your side. I care about you, Kotaro. Thank you for everything." In the end, Kotaro was still trying to hold back tears, because he didn't want to be weak. At this time, the editor told Kurino to go watch a movie in the theater to get inspiration for the manga. So he invited Kotaro to go along. Unexpectedly, a few other boys came along too. So Kurino had to take care of the other kids by himself. It made him very tired. Not to mention the kids kept asking to eat this and see that. But Kurino didn't have that much money. But anyway, to keep his dignity in front of Kotaro's friends, he gritted his teeth and treated the kids. Feeling like they kept asking for more, Kotaro spoke up. Kurino is a poor artist, he doesn't have much money. So you all should ask less. Besides, he's here for work. Finally, he escaped from the kids. At that moment, Kotaro said, "You seem to have fun playing with my friends." It turned out he was jealous. Because Kurino didn't play with him. So the next day, Kurino took him to see Tanosaman. Today, Isamu came to visit again. Kotaro asked about his son. He said, Isamu's ex-wife said their son doesn't want to meet him. The next day, Kotaro found a kid hanging around here. It turned out he was Isamu's son. Unexpectedly, it wasn't that he didn't want to see his father. But his mother told him that, when Isamu returned, he was very happy to see his son. So he introduced himself, his name is Yuta. When talking about the plan to meet, his mother had hidden it from him. So he had to find Isamu's address by himself to come here. While he was very happy, Isamu still sternly told him to go home. Because the meeting schedule was already set. So they should meet on the exact day. He didn't want Yuta to break the rules. So Isamu called the mother to come pick Yuta up and take him home. Isamu also apologized to Yuta for not being by his side all the time. Meanwhile, Isamu really wanted to meet his son. But the uncle didn't want to. And Yuta grew up becoming someone used to breaking rules. Kotaro now understood. That was Isamu's way of loving him. The next day, a girl came to rent a room and introduced herself as Takei. She just moved here and rented room 201. Takei was like an annoying mother who complained all day long. Kurino noticed she often praised children. But every time she did, she sweated profusely. She also often played tag with Kotaro. Though she seemed very awkward. Today Kurino was busy, so he asked Takei to pick up Kotaro. So she willingly helped. In the evening, they took a bath together. Kotaro said Takei picked him up by taxi. He felt Takei was forcing herself a little today. Kurino immediately realized she was someone who didn't like children. But she said she was trying to improve that. Takei still forced herself to play with Kotaro. Kurino didn't expect that usually the kid was very sensitive. But now he didn't notice it. It turned out Kotaro had noticed. But he was trying to play with her to help Takei overcome the discomfort. Hearing those words from Kotaro, Takei was very moved. The next week, Kotaro had gained noticeable weight. He said it was because recently, Kotaro no longer ate tissues. So that's why he gained weight. When Takei heard that, she asked Kurino about it. Kurino also told her about how the kid was once abandoned by his parents. So he ate tissues to stave off hunger. Tomorrow there will be a parent meeting to review the school lunch. Takei will go because she studied nutrition. When she arrived at the school, Takei realized Kotaro had eaten all the leftover portions from the other kids. Because he didn't want to waste food. Because he knew the value of food. After that, the teacher told the parents that she said, "We can't let the kids leave leftovers for Kotaro anymore. Because it was causing him to become obese." Today, Kotaro invited everyone in the dorm to see his collection, making all three of them very excited. While all the good memories were kept by Kotaro. At this time, Takei was quite curious about these gloves. It turned out they were Kotaro's mother's gloves. Because she often used these gloves to touch Kotaro. Upon hearing that, Takei told Kotaro to throw it away. With a serious expression, she was also very angry about it. It turned out that when she was little, her mother also used to wear gloves when touching Takei. Her mother had a grudge against Takei. Because she felt disgusted when touching her. Kotaro said his mother wore gloves when changing his clothes and washing his hair. So he wouldn't throw them away. Takei understood how terrible that feeling was. Kurino knew that too. But maybe even something so painful could become important to Kotaro. Today in class, the group was playing soccer. Kotaro was on the same team as Kakeru. Kotaro played soccer very badly. But Kakeru was very good at it. During the game, Kotaro kept running after Kakeru. Meanwhile, the coach's voice rang out. They were scolding the other players. Hearing that, Kakeru trembled. A flood of memories came rushing back. He had been yelled at loudly by his parents before. So that made him obsessed with it. Suddenly Kotaro grabbed Kakeru's hand and said, "You'll be okay." The coach isn't mad at you. So both of them started playing soccer again. Kotaro dribbled, shot straight at the goal. And the goalkeeper saved it. The ball bounced off Kotaro's face and then into the goal. Luckily, Kotaro acted like he just scored an amazing goal. At the dental hospital, here, the chief doctor has a rule to examine children for 1 hour. Meanwhile, adults are only examined for 30 minutes. It turned out that previously a little girl came for a checkup. But her teeth were all badly decayed. This made the doctor angry at the girl, and told her mother to come back in 4 or 5 days. But before the appointment day, the girl came early. However, the schedule was full today, so the doctor asked her to come back the next morning with her mother. After that, the girl never came back again. A few days later, the doctor accidentally read an article titled, "Abuse of a Girl Named Kano." That was the same girl who had come for a checkup days before. If the doctor had listened to the girl's story, he would have been able to treat her decayed teeth. Since then, the doctor set a rule: examine children for 1 hour, 30 minutes for the checkup, and 30 minutes to talk with the children. Today, it rained very heavily. Takei was leaving work when she met Kotaro. He was providing an umbrella sharing service. That means today Takei brought her own umbrella, so she couldn't use Kotaro's service. The next few days were the same. Kotaro still shared his umbrella with those who forgot theirs. Takei said, "Your shoulder is all wet now." But Kotaro said, "That's what my master told me." It turned out Kotaro's master was his father. When it rained, his father tilted the umbrella toward him. He said, "When holding the umbrella, think of others. That means your shoulder will get wet." Today Takei returned home with Kotaro. She held the umbrella and tilted it toward him. Kotaro remembered he also used to share an umbrella with his mother. But she let his shoulder get wet. That is also each person's way of showing affection. Today, someone came looking for Kotaro. It turned out to be Tasuku, the person Kotaro often mentioned when talking with Ryota. Tasuku was someone who stayed in the orphanage with Kotaro. So the two of them went back to Kotaro's house and talked together. A few days later, Kobayashi came to see Karino. She said recently Kotaro kept asking for an increase in his allowance. Meanwhile, the amount he wanted kept increasing. After hearing this, that night Karino went to see Tasuku. Suddenly, Karino asked directly about money. Tasuku said he and Kotaro planned to live together, so he needed money to move house. The next morning, Karino told Kobayashi about Kotaro wanting to live with Tasuku. But Kobayashi believed Kotaro wouldn't want to leave everyone here, so she would investigate Tasuku more thoroughly. Karino also asked Kotaro about wanting to live with Tasuku. Kotaro agreed that he wanted that. At that moment, a memory flooded back. It turned out when he first arrived at the orphanage, Kotaro was a very shy person. That made it hard for him to open up. But Tasuku always helped him. And thanks to Tasuku, Kotaro was able to open up to everyone. That made things more comfortable. Suddenly, a girl lost her wallet. She thought Tasuku had taken it. Kotaro stood up to assert that Tasuku didn't steal it. After a while, they found the wallet, and cleared Tasuku's name. She also thanked Kotaro, because he defended him. Previously, Tasuku had been caught for petty theft. So they suspected him. Kotaro said, "I trust you." Tasuku laughed and said, "You trust people too easily." Kobayashi investigated and found out that Tasuku was in consumer loan debt. His repayments were delayed, but recently it seemed he had started paying off the debt himself. The next day, both of them came to find Kotaro to ask about it. Suddenly, they thought Kotaro had been deceived by him. But Kotaro still trusted Tasuku, so they had no other choice. So Karino and Bayashi went together to meet Tasuku. They found out that Tasuku was deceiving Kotaro. Tasuku also realized he had been exposed. Just then, Kotaro appeared. He had just come back with collected scrap. Then, the three of them went up to the room together. Karino felt very angry, but he thought he should give the boy more time. If he acted now, he would ruin the relationship between Kotaro and Tasuku. It turned out Kotaro had known about Tasuku's actions for a long time. Because whenever Tasuku lied, his index finger would tap on the table. From the moment he arrived here, Kotaro had noticed that. That was undeniable. Nevertheless, Kotaro did not blame Tasuku. He even gave him extra money. As long as that person is Su-kun, He completely trusts him. Even if betrayed, he still trusts Tasuku. Kotaro also brought out a bag of coins. That was the money he earned from collecting scrap. Tasuku said that when he left the orphanage, he also tried to trust people like Kotaro. But he was betrayed too many times. When he realized it, he had become like he is now. A few days later, Kotaro continued to collect scrap as usual. According to Kobayashi's research, Tasuku quit working as a bar host. Now, he has a different job. Meanwhile, Kotaro is still collecting scrap. He hopes to save enough money to build a castle. Then, he wants to live with everyone in that castle. Tasuku started working as a carpenter with Ryota. He also got punched by Ryota once for lying to Kotaro. But it seems everything is fine now. Kurino just took on a new job, which is drawing a short manga series. So the work is quite a lot and hard. Today, a strange girl came to pick up Kotaro after school. She said she came to pick him up instead of Kurino. Her name is Nita. The teacher also sent a message that there will be a fun party soon. She also asked Nita to tell Kurino. When he got home, Kurino grumbled at Kotaro for letting a stranger pick him up. He worried that if he met a bad person, it would be very dangerous. It turned out that 3 days ago, Nita had already come here. She had a fight with her boyfriend, so she wanted to stay at Kotaro's place for a few days. Lately, she noticed Kurino was very busy with work, yet he still had to take care of Kotaro. So she felt heartbroken. Nita had met Kotaro many days before that. Kurino had sleepless nights for several days, so he was exhausted. If he still had to take Kotaro shopping, to school, or to bath, he would be very tired. Kotaro thought he was a burden to Kurino. Therefore, from the next day, he refused to go with Kurino. Kotaro said he would go alone, but no matter how tired he was, Kurino still followed Kotaro. No matter how busy he was, Kurino was still present at the fun party. He wanted to accompany Kotaro. Nita thought Kurino was not obligated to take care of the kid. But indeed, he wanted to do so. Usually, parents observe and keep track of their child's growth. Maybe tomorrow the kid will leave him. But Kurino still wanted to keep every moment in the boy's life. Kurino also wanted his manga to succeed. If he failed, the kid might blame him for being too busy taking care of him and failing. When she returned, Nita apologized to Kotaro, because he was the one who helped Kurino get the motivation to draw manga. She advised the two of them to make up. Going back a bit, there was a guy very passionate about designing clothes. Kotaro was a kid who often came to his house. Almost every day, Kotaro came over. The guy started bragging about his shirts. One day, when he was not home, Kotaro still rang the doorbell loudly. The guy wearing a hat thought maybe Kotaro's parents were not home. Perhaps the kid was very lonely. So he did that. He searched on Google to check. Indeed, it was a typical behavior of neglected children, often ringing strangers' doorbells. The next day, the guy warmly welcomed Kotaro. He even gave him many red and white t-shirts. Kotaro apologized for ringing the doorbell the day before. Then he said, "Feel free to ring the doorbell as much as you like, if it makes you feel better." Since then, Kotaro often wore that shirt. Today, a newspaper delivery man came to Kotaro's house. He arrived a little late, but Kotaro did not blame him and even thanked him. The delivery man thought this kid was very well behaved. He was also curious why a 4-year-old child would subscribe to a newspaper by himself. The delivery man thought Kotaro might have been forced to subscribe. When he found out Kotaro lived alone, he felt even more sympathetic. He advised Kotaro to cancel the newspaper subscription, but Kotaro wanted him to continue delivering the paper. Kotaro asked the delivery man to watch out if any newspapers stayed stuck at the door for more than 2 days. "Please pay attention. Maybe something has happened to me." Today, Kotaro watched TV and seemed to have discovered something. He looked for Kurino and asked where Konomi Station was. He wanted to go there. Kurino agreed and said he would go with him. The next day, the two of them set off to that place. It turned out the place they went to was a cemetery. Kotaro wanted to visit his maternal grandparents' graves. He had been there once before with his mother. He hoped that one day he would see his mother again. Kotaro said his mother's name was Saori. While cleaning the graves, Kurino noticed a grave with the exact same name as Kotaro's mother. Finally, he understood why the kid lived alone. After Kotaro finished lighting incense for his grandparents, he told Kurino to light incense too. But Kurino stood still. He didn't want to leave that place. Kurino was afraid Kotaro would see his mother's name on the tombstone. Suddenly, Kotaro asked, "Will I be able to see my mother again?" Until now, Kurino had never lied to Kotaro. But maybe this time, he would have to break that rule. He said, "You will definitely see your mother." Kotaro said, "Because you are a man of your word. Kurino, I will believe you, because you never lie to me." On the way back, Kurino said, "Next time you visit the grave, take me with you again." Okay, because he had two reasons to go with Kotaro. The first reason was that he didn't want Kotaro to know his mother had passed away. The second reason was so he could share memories of Kotaro growing up with her. And so, everyone in the apartment complex was there, waiting for Kotaro to come home. That's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And stay tuned for the next episodes. Much love.